this is Jenny-Jaymes Gunn. I am a community advocate here in Charlotte, North Carolina for LGBT women's rights with the National Organization for Women, gun sense laws with Moms and Men Action, and anything that extends equity to all. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. This is Barb Bacon. I'm a community advocate here in South Charlotte. Generally, I drive people around and to doctor's appointments, and I'm getting ready to have my sign-up list for taking people to vote. Buttons, once again, are, I believe in healthcare for all. I've got some people that don't believe in Medicare for all. Gun violence, let's get some control of guns. And Black Lives Matter in honor of our friend Joel that passed away last year. So that's it, guys.
Hey, I'm Christian Cano. You're the co-host. My buttons are Moms and Men Action, Gunsmiths Legislation, Healthcare for All, Medicare for All, and also in my heart, Black Lives Matter on behalf of Joe Oldham, who's a guest of ours who passed away last year. That's it.
And there we go. Hey, everybody. It is Coffee Pan Dulce time. It is November 16th, so we're halfway through the month. Yeah, time is flying. I mean, we literally are, we're right at about 2 weeks from Thanksgiving or something like that, and that's Turkey crazy. Day and all the accoutrement that goes with Turkey Day. And we just shot a commercial for Manolo's Bakery, which you'll see later on in the show. I mean, they have all kinds of goodies over there and tamales. I mean, what says Thanksgiving more than a big old chocolate cake from Manolo's, some of those little sugar donuts, and a big old helping heap of tamales. I mean, I'm already hungry. But anyway, this is Coffee Pan Dulce, and this is the third Wednesday of the month. We're flying by. And I'm Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, along with Barb Bacon and Christian Cano. You already saw our introductions at the start of the show. And how y'all doing?
Good. Happy post-election. Barb, we missed you last week. I'm sure. What were your feelings?
I was immensely relieved. I had this upset stomach all weekend, and I'm like, exactly. I was afraid. I did not watch anything Tuesday night. I went to bed. I had 2 glasses of wine, and I went to sleep, and I woke up at 3. And I said, I can't stand it anymore. So I turned on the TV and watched it, and eventually fell asleep again. But I was like, not as bad as I thought. Thank God, So it was.
That was kind of what we talked about last week. And as Jenny mentioned, welcome everyone to Coffee Pan Dulce. I'm Christian Cano, one of your co-hosts, as she said, with Jenny Gunn and Barb Bacon. And we want to thank those who are joining us on Facebook Live, but also those who join us on YouTube, and the thousands that listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platform. Last week's show, we've got almost over 3,000 viewers who've watched it. And once again, our MAGA drag queen show continues to get people watching it. And today's show, I hope tops our highest rated viewed show, was the original MAGA Republican America's Welfare Queens, ? That had 18,000 viewers, like 70,000 listeners. So this is our part 2 edition, MAGA Republicans, America's Welfare Queens, part 2. We're asking the question. But before we do that, as Jenny mentioned, we've introduced ourselves in the video before. Also, we did a little commercial for Manolo's Bakery, so we don't have to do that right now. But we are going to salute to our neighbors, whatever you're drinking this morning. I'm actually drinking coffee, so I will be awake for a while. And our 3 current events, and we're going to pause a little bit for Barb's 3 current events.
current events.
All right, so Barb, you're going to have to watch this because we've got your little video that plays there now. So our 3 current events today, and I'm going to surprise you. We haven't gone over these.
Okay.
Chick-fil-A. Everyone who thinks Chick-fil-A was closed on Sundays because they're religious, that's not really the reason why. They're really closed on Sundays because during the early days, the founder of Chick-fil-A was just tired and needed to take some time off and wanted to give the employees some time off. So they closed it. They just didn't open on Sundays because that's when they cleaned their restaurant. But it turned out afterwards, it became kind of a marketing thing to say, well, we follow Jesus, so we close on Sunday. But that's not really the reason why they closed on Sundays. The second one, election deniers all around the country in this last election lost in the key states offices in the 2020. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful news. And then the last one, which I think is actually, you know what, there's 2 last ones, but we'll do them both. The Elon Musk, moved to South Texas. And the first vote he ever gave in South Texas was 5 months ago for the Republican kind of wacko Latina who won. Well, she lost. She only lasted 5 months, and she's very angry because she thinks Elon Musk didn't get her enough votes. That one, and the data is coming out right now. Young women, 72% of women from the ages of 18 to 29 voted for Democrats. Is that incredible?
Yes.
Yay.
Yay, finally.
Now the boomers and the Gen Xers.
I was so worried.
Yes, at least the Gen Xers. So those are the 3 kind of 4 topics. Jen, you want to start us off since I know you're chomping at the bits there.
I know the young Latina there in South Texas that's in Elon Musk's part of the world now. Obviously, if your policies were relevant, considering how women turned out, and especially young women, her peers, basically, you really have no excuse. And the Twitter machine's not going to save you if you're stupid.
Exactly.
So, I mean, even if you're in Texas, more importantly, birds of feather. But I think even more so, you look at the other things that we're talking about, which I kind of forgot, but
election deniers and Chick-fil-A.
With the secretaries of state, every one of the secretaries of state for the different states that were proven, admitted election deniers, they all lost, which was huge.
Yes.
Thank God.
We took several battleground legislatures as well in states that were election denial was a very popular thing in the Republican counties, which was huge, like Michigan, Wisconsin, things like that.
Pennsylvania.
And I think people sent some clear messages. One, reproductive rights is wildly popular amongst young women. There's no other take that you can have that they're going,
sure,
well, shit, I'm not going to go my entire adult life without reproductive rights. We fought too hard for this. Clearly, they showed up and showed out and averted any version ever of a red wave. In fact, it was historic on how bad the Republicans got defeated. And it's because of that group that just blew out any chance of the baby boomers and the older Gen Xers from turning this around and being a bloodbath.
Yeah.
And I think we can draw a parallel between the millennials that really turned out for Obama in 2008. If you remember, a lot of college-age people really, really turned out and surprised the Republicans and voted overwhelmingly for the historic win for Obama. I think we began to see younger people turn out when real issues are being talked about. That should be the take, is just like we saw with the 2020 march, the George Floyd Black Lives Matter marches in the summer of 2020. One of the things that Christian and I both noticed was how young the people were, and it was across the board. It was young men, young women.
Yeah.
Every race, every nationality came together on this very overwhelmingly important issue of correcting historical travesties against the Black community. And we saw them step up, and we saw it in 2020. We saw it in 2018, the year of the woman. And if one thing is holding true, is younger Americans are saying enough is enough is enough.
Exactly.
And the Chick-fil-A stuff, I couldn't give two fucks about Chick-fil-A. If
I knew it wasn't your
burned down-
favorite.
if that place burned down, I wouldn't even pee on it to put out the fire. What just a dynasty built on bigotry and hate, and the original founder. If he drops in the ocean tomorrow, I won't shed a tear. So that's how I feel about Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
Fuck 'em.
Okay. All right. How about you, Barb?
I don't know too much about the woman in Texas. I just know that when I've seen clips, I'm like, oh my God. So that's
She's a little crazy.
That's all the time she's getting. I mean, it's like,
she's cuckoo.
Yeah. And
she's local, as we say.
Cocoa Puffs are not even involved. Yes.
That's right.
I watched a podcast Sunday morning, Major Garrett and Governor Cooper. And the 2 or 3 takeaways, he was very happy to see I forget the term he used, but he rattled off the list of all the kinds of people that he was glad that did not win.
Sure.
And the Trump-backed people at the top of the list, except for our new senator, which he had a little bit to say about that as well, that the Democratic Party did not really turn out for Sherry Beasley. They didn't help.
Yeah.
They were too busy trying to save Democrats elsewhere, and wouldn't it have been nice to have a new Democratic senator in North Carolina? But, well, we'll pay the price. But and Chick-fil-A, I don't like their product. It's too salty, so I don't care. But the fact that they lied, nice. Yeah. I mean, they're supposed to be so religious and nice and church-like. Once again, okay.
Exactly.
I forgot the other one.
Okay. I think that's pretty much it. Women 18 to 29. I think, did you cover that? They came out.
I'm not surprised because I was watching the stats that they were talking about new voters, and I found it humorous listening to all these pollsters. They never once apologize when they're so wrong. But
Jenny.
The interesting thing is, I don't have regular channels anymore, but I'm watching these different kind of news channels, and this one channel on the Roku channel, they had pollster ratings, and the Democrats, they said, we'll give them C's and D's. Yeah. The Republicans got D's and F's, and they thought all of them should be fired because they were so wrong. But then this other man jumped in and said, well, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I'm not even from the U.S., but what everybody forgets is new voters are not people that they can get in touch with because they don't know who they are. And people don't make their phone numbers available, so they can't call them. And they don't want calls from those kind of people. So the two groups of people that helped the Republicans stay at bay, they never talked to them. So I thought that was interesting.
Good points. And I just want to go on the record. Everyone knows who's been watching the show. Jenny said it very vividly several times that the pollsters were not counting these new registered young people. And they 79% with the Democrats. The one thing I was going to add was the Chick-fil-A, I agree with all of you. The election deniers, if those who watched last week's show, Jenny and I had puffy eyes, stayed up all night long. It was the best case scenario that I could have imagined. It could have been so much worse. And there's still some victories I wish we'd won. The young women, I applaud them. They are our future. And to know that they voted 79% Democrat means demographically Jenny posted a video on her thing about, the boomers are going to go on and they're going to be replaced with these young women. And it is going to change the landscape of America. And I have said this before, in North Carolina, not to reiterate why Sherry Beasley lost, but I wish she had run really hard on women's reproductive rights.
Yeah.
What was she going to lose? What does she have to lose? I mean, we've lost 4 elections in a row here in North Carolina. So, and around the country as well. I wish that 2024, I hope we continue to, we have the ability to save North Carolina again, and then also in the Congress as well. So, Jen, you want to add something?
Well, I think if we look at 2 campaigns, actually from 2 pretty regular old white guys, Fetterman in Pennsylvania, and we look at Frisch in Colorado House District 3, and they showed, even with lots of Republican money in the race, and with a lot of Republican support, that if you run, especially with a polarizing opposition like Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania, and of course our good friend of the show, Bobbert, if you run 2 planks, one, I'm not that stupid and problematic from the get-go. Not towards the end, not this desperation at the end, but they're a piece of crap. You don't want that representing you. I mean, right from the start, just say it like it is. Because with candidates like that running against them, all you got to do, you don't even have to make anything up. You literally can just tell it like it is. The second thing is state your case. Hey, I'm just a normal person. I'm just a regular person. I'm nothing special, and run very humble and I'm just going to restore some sort of normalcy and sanity to this district or to the state. And people bought into Fetterman and Frisch, and you can see the result, especially with Fetterman, when $100 million was thrown in by Dr. Oz and Republican donors that they literally tried to buy the election. And so much so against the guy that had a stroke mid-campaign, came back from the stroke, and still beat a multi high wealth TV doctor.
He spent $26 million of his own dollars.
Yeah. I mean, and that wasn't even near the total.
But he's a Kevin Trudeau quack now. When Oprah comes out and supports Fetterman over Oz, I was
she did like last week.
I was like, way to go. And they said his numbers bumped up. So
hey, listen, let's take our first break, and when we come back, I want to ask a question before we really go into our topic, because I'm sure whatever we say about this topic is going to get a lot of views, so we really have to. All right, so we're going to take our first break. We will be right back on Coffee Pan Dulce right after this.
Hey y'all, the holidays are coming up, and what better way to celebrate locally than with Manolo's Bakery's fine goods and services. They have amazing chocolate cakes is what they're known for. Tres Leches cakes, tamales. Get your tamales orders in early, especially if you're going to order for Thanksgiving, because they sell out fast. But they have an amazing bakery and restaurant there on the east side of Charlotte, and you're missing out. Plus, you should support your Black and brown businesses and shop local and shop small to really keep the economy going. Thanks for watching, and shop with Manolo's this year.
All right, well, welcome back. And I failed to thank who is joining us, Democracy Bernie. He's here listening to this conversation. And then MAGA welfare queen, Baby Trump Pinata, is listening to this conversation. They'll be leaving us here soon, so you can just focus on us 3. But a question, Jenny, Newt Gingrich, our favorite woman divorcee hypocrite from Georgia, was complaining on Fox News that the Democrats were so mean that they were casting them as mean and evil and damaged their brand so much that people didn't want to vote for them. Well, we took a page out of there and did it to them. When Biden this late summer, and Barbara had mentioned this to us, when Biden got with his senior officials and they coined the term MAGA Republican, and I know I did, use it as much as we can to damage the brand, because you weren't talking about moderate Republicans, you were talking about the crazy Republican, MAGA Republican. It worked. It damaged the brand so much that around the country, people who are being polled are saying, we didn't want crazy, and so I just think that's wonderful. I'm wondering if that's going to be a template for 2024, because now we've got Trump against DeSantis. All the evangelical Christians are going to go to DeSantis, and all the MAGA people are going to Trump. And you can see the people that are trolling us on our drag show are all the MAGA ones. And I've been looking at their profiles, and they're actually slamming DeSantis, saying, well, it's like the beginning of a war there.
Well, who's more evil, you guys? I mean, ugh.
Well, first of all, you can go back to what I said in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And if you play some of the things I said, everybody else on the show poo-pooed me when I said it and gaslit me. And
I did it.
No, especially you. And looked at me like and said I was crazy. And
she said the Republicans
everything that's happened, everything that I've said has come true.
Yeah.
And because I'm on the right, and I'm usually right, and because I know human nature.
Yeah.
And Trump has spent the better part of a decade poo-pooing everything from Obama's birth certificate to Hillary's emails to just every frigging fringe conspiracy wacko theory that you can come up, including, inciting a coup and an insurrection.
Mm-hmm.
He's about to face the music on pretty soon. Just mark my words. Once we get past the Georgia runoff, there's going to be an accountability time. But anyway, but I think at the end of the day, you got to compare this after the Reagan-Bush era. Republicans went so off the deep end then too, and I think these Republicans, MAGAs, have just drank so much Kool-Aid and just gone to just seriously extremes. Emotional, knee-jerk. So you can't run that way forever.
Sure.
And there's going to be a reckoning in 2024. I believe that they're going to tear each other apart in the primary because DeSantis is leading in the early polls. I think he is going to do everything he can to keep himself in the news, including probably burning down half of Ford if he can. But he's literally going to he'll do anything, including killing his own citizens. He has no issue with
following
that.
in Trump's footsteps there.
And I think you're going to hear some of the wackiest shit we've ever heard in American politics the next 2 years coming from that side.
Exactly.
I'm here for it. And because you reap what you sow. And they have sowed hate and cruelty is the only policies they have. And if any one party deserves their own fire and brimstone, it's going to be that. And that is why young people said, fuck this shit. I am not hinging our future on idiots like this. Like Dr. Oz talking about sexuality with having sex with his daughters. He said, I wouldn't be necessarily against incest with my daughters, but they don't like my smell. literally said that and meant it.
Oh,
Well, so
And that's the kind of, you got stripper, sex worker Bobert, you got crazy sex party MTG, you got cocaine and orgy Cawthorn. These are their best and brightest.
and
These are their Gingriches of their time. And you've got a band of wackos that are the front runners, including Death DeSantis, being the bearers of the Republican MAGA flag. And their brand is like a weird closet gay pirate ship that is just, what could go wrong? What could go wrong?
So hey Jen, question, and then we'll switch to the topic. Do you think that it will benefit? So the evangelicals are probably going to go towards DeSantis because they can't go back to Trump after he's lost or considered a loser. The MAGAs will stay with, and the Proud Boys and all of them will stay with Trump. I think that Trump is going to start going after these evangelical pastors who've abandoned him. Because remember, he made a statement that the evangelicals are kind of crazy. They'll just support me no matter what I say.
right.
Trump is so spiteful that he's willing to tear things down. And he's not a religious person.
No.
So I see him going after evangelicals. Yeah. So I'm giddy about the next 2 years and what role we will play to help.
Your prediction may come true, Christian.
We'll see what happens.
Well, first of all,
I
think Trump's going to be irrelevant by the end of next year.
Okay.
Because it's hard to run for president when you're in jail. Okay. He's going to prison. There's no.
I don't see how they can not send him to prison.
And so I believe that this rivalry between these two fools, his trial might take to the middle of 2024. He may be able to run.
Yeah.
But I think once he's indicted, once he's under either a house arrest or an arrest, I mean, we just saw Bannon get sentenced.
What was it?
And he got sentenced in New York? For one of his scams.
60 days or something like that.
He's got to stand trial again. So he's got, just like Trump's got to not only face federal court and federal charges.
All these civil, he's got tons of,
And we're not even talking about the new
nine, doesn't he? It's like 9 different. It's like
no, he's facing investigations in 26 different jurisdictions plus federal.
Can you imagine?
And has 2 full-blown federal investigations.
I take a hole and start going to China.
I mean, your average person stresses out about going to court for a traffic ticket.
I mean,
and
he can just stall, and it all goes.
That's what he's always done. Yeah.
But I don't think you can this time because he wasn't president then, and I think these are more criminal-oriented charges. Yeah. These are more massive, violations. These are, you're talking about, some of these are on the Espionage Act level.
Oh yeah.
There's no way to look the other way.
Yeah.
Because what you would say from the Justice Department is it's okay to deal in the most top secret stuff that we have.
We don't even
that would be a disaster. No matter, let's take the party out of it for a second.
Sure. Okay.
That anybody in the Senate, anybody in the House, and or the president and the president's staff could ever broker or sell us out to other foreign powers or enemies of our state would be, it wouldn't be the end of our democracy, but it'd be the end of our national security. And it would welcome the scariest of scenarios. And it's 100%, you know, his charity thing, whether they get him in New York for that, civilly, not that big of a deal.
Yeah, but the tax evasion in New York, I mean, simple.
Yeah, that one I think that one I think is going to get.
That's going to be a big wave.
The taxes. Yeah.
But when you're talking about breaking the Espionage Act, And you're talking about the only two sentences you can get for that is life in prison or the death penalty. And typically it's the death penalty.
Sure.
They may not execute him because he's a former president, but he is eligible for that.
Yeah.
I've found
let's do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's take our second break a little early, and then we'll come back and we'll go into our topic, because this kind of goes into the topic. Yeah. So we're going to take our second break on Coffee and Pan Dulce. We'll be right back right after this. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching our Coffee and Pan Dulce show every week. Don't forget, you can watch us visually on our video podcast platforms on Facebook and YouTube, but you can also listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all of the other ones that your favorite, whatever your favorite is. Once again, thank you for watching us on Coffee and Pan Dulce. We'll dance out. All right. Well, welcome back to Coffee and Pan Dulce. So, Jenny, to your point, today's topic is MAGA Republicans, America's Welfare Queens, Part 2, ? We're asking. We had a show a couple of months ago. Great show. A lot of people loved it or watched it. Those same people are watching the MAGA Drag Queen show. Here's the deal. I'm constantly seeing Republicans, like more moderate Republicans, since many of them have turned independent, that are starting to openly say what I've been saying, and Jenny, I don't know if you've been saying it, but I've been saying, the MAGAs are the trash of the Republican Party. I mean, and I said that only because I heard a Republican say it's the trailer trash of our party.
Yep.
And so I just took what they said, okay? And so I think with the DeSantis thing going on, and some more of the elite Republicans kind of go to him, and they've abandoned Trump, they're going to start openly saying what I have been saying, and what we have all been saying is, the Proud Boys, the Proud Girls, the MAGAs, all of those, they're like the undereducated, rural, they're an important part of their base, but they are not the best and the brightest of America. And we did the show last time about a MAGA, or the welfare queens, and the reason we kind of talked about that was because all of their arguments and complaints are, the government needs to help me with this. We need to, it's like, help me, instead of accepting personal responsibility for whatever the case is. They're blaming the government for everything. And so that's the reason I'm asking, this is the same thing, and we talked about this last time, that had been used against Black and brown people during the Reagan days, during the Nixon days, about the welfare queens and so forth.
But to cut you off there, I mean,
sure,
they're still using that. I mean, you even heard Jeff Scott, our libertarian friend that was a co-host, years ago.
Yep.
He said that one time. He said, well, what about the welfare queens of the Democrats? And literally said the racism without saying blatantly the racism.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is that it's a racist trope that's literally not true. The highest percentage by race that's on the SNAP program, for example, the food stamps program, is white people.
Yep.
And if you've ever lived in a rural Republican shithole dystopian area of the United States, which I have, I've got plenty of experience with this. I lived in Southwest Missouri for 12 years. And I can tell you, you will see wall-to-wall white people, poor, rural, uneducated mouth breathers on every program Missouri offer. And as Republican as Missouri is, they have extended Medicaid. They have every giveaway program. Since it's a seasonal city, almost all of them go on unemployment. Yeah. And then the best part is when they talk about Kansas City and St. Louis, which are the big cities in Missouri. And they basically are talking about predominantly people of color, saying how the big cities are pulling us down. Yeah. And per capita, the rural white areas, the meth lab areas of Missouri, literally, I didn't know hardly anybody there was public assistance of some kind, including Medicaid,
Sure.
that I knew in my personal circles because they were all poor white people.
Yeah.
And I made more than most of my friends because I was in the resort sales business, but a lot of them worked in local jobs. And I mean, they'd name off all the programs openly, but they had acted so entitled that we're the real Americans. You know, we got guns and we believe in Jesus and we go to tractor pools and foosball games, and by God, it's our entitlement, you know, because my granddaddy fought in World War II. And just this mentality, I'm like, no, we're all Americans.
Sure.
All Americans are entitled to it. We all pay into the same system. And by our birthright, we share this American fabric. And, you know, but for some reason, and it's not just the MAGA Republicans, the Republicans have had this attitude of entitlement for a long time, specifically white people, white conservatives.
Sure.
And they've had this idea, this is their country. And we're all, just like that one MAGA mouth breather that mouthed off the other day, basically, you know, because you're LatinX, they, you know, you should
well, you're in America now.
Yeah, you're in America.
I've always been in America.
You're in America. I'm like, and then that's when I put the little map of how the border moved, and he shut the fuck up because here's the thing: the second largest Spanish-speaking city in the world is Los Angeles, and it's a Spanish name, City of the Angels. And then you got San Francisco, another Spanish name, San Diego, San Antonio,
El Paso.
I'm going. What do you morons not understand about this?
Well,
is that we were when we were kids, they always called it the Great Melting Pot.
Sure.
And most of the Texas cities and towns either have a Spanish name or a German name, especially in the southern hill country up above San Antonio. You got New Braunfels, then you got
Schwartz,
San Marcos. You got all these different Polish, German, Czech names for cities.
But you know what, Jenny? Yeah, but Jenny, and this is what's so amazing. I mean, we don't even have to go into the data. I mean, just common sense tells you. If you're watching the show, which we'll get a lot of people who watch the show want to know what we're doing. It doesn't take a rocket science to know that the top 20 cities are where the best and the brightest move. Now, they don't stay there all the time, but the best and the brightest want to live at least sometime in the top 20 cities. And then they'll move out to the suburbs of the country, you know, depends when they've made their money, whatever the case may be.
Here's a question. You know, when you see an upwardly mobile, like late 20s, early 30s, young adult, you know, with their careers and their degrees and all that. Have you ever heard one of those people say, geez, I really want to move to Amarillo, Texas?
Well, that's my point, Jen. My point is, when we do shows like this, and we have the ones who follow us, which we love the fact they're following us because they give us more clicks and people want to know what we're talking about. They like to put these links to like some, you know, bootleg conservative, you know, data, you know, this and so forth. It's like, well, here's the reality. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, the 15th largest city in, so do we, 15th largest city in America. It is expensive to live in this city.
Yes.
It is expensive to live. It's expensive. Cost of living is very high. It is a very, very heavily Democratic city. We just swept the Board of Election, County Commission, almost all the school boards, no Moms for Liberty people won, you know, very, very blue city. These people that are complaining about Charlotte, they can't afford to live here. So it's like, why? The reason you're complaining is because you couldn't even afford. I mean, I'm not, and I know that's going to come as an elitist. You're complaining about Los Angeles, Miami, all these big cities, New York, because you can't make it in that city. So I see why you're angry is because you have to make it in Waco, Texas, or you know, or you know, I'm just using I don't know Waco. You know, I'm just you know, I mean, you know, Monroe, North Carolina. You know, and so I see why they're angry is because it's like I can never get to that because I just can't. So they like to knock the big cities. But I'm like, that's fine because you can't make it here. You know,
well, just like Bathroom Dan during the summer was going on about East Coast elitist states, which I reminded him that we're on the East Coast. They, literally.
Yeah, I thought we were.
Yes.
Then
that was so funny.
He goes, elitist blue cities. I go like the one that you live in because you live in Charlotte.
Oh, exactly. And then he still lives
if it's really that bad here, if it really is that bad here, move it to your district.
Exactly.
Which is mostly all rural now.
Yeah.
And I'm going, if it's really that rough, if it is really that bad to live in this elitist, wealthy, successful city by every measure of success, when you're talking about economy and economics, the driving engine of North Carolina economics goes through Charlotte.
Exactly.
There's no debate on that. We are the driving force in this state. If it's that bad and not elitist, move the fuck out.
Well, and that's what's what is so. Yep.
That's right. It's funny how many of these mouth-breathing MAGAs that do live in elitist cities that bitch about blue cities. And then you look up their address and they live in a big fucking city. And you go, and then half the time, if they live serving the National Congress, I'm going, you live in Washington, D.C., one of the most elitist cities on the planet.
So that's
with some of the highest incomes on the planet, the highest real estate on the planet. I'm going, if you really reject elitist cities, don't run for office anymore. If it really bothers you that much. But it's very bizarre that they fight like hell, spend $50-100 million to win a seat, to buy a seat, become millionaires being in Congress. And then bitch about elitist blue cities that they live in. And fight tooth and nail to move to.
And that's what's so funny for the people. I love them. I love the ones that follow us. They don't watch the show, but they love to post stuff on there. I love when they do that because you look at their profiles and you're like, okay, I see why you're mad. It's
well, yeah, their life looks sad.
But the funniest
that.
Yes, but one of the funniest things that this election cycle, then we're going to take our last break here. The funniest thing about this last election cycle, here in Mecklenburg County in Charlotte, those who watch us, we're in Charlotte. Our county is Mecklenburg County. It's all Democrats won all of the county commission seats. A friend of the show, maybe a former friend of the show, former guest of our show, was running to try to regain his seat.
Oh, you mean
this individual? Yes, this individual ran on, we need change in Mecklenburg County because our home prices have gone up 46%, mine 100%, 46%. We're doing well. Taxes are coming in like crazy, but I'm mad. It was like the craziest argument. It's like, I'm mad because we're successful. And it was like, what kind of argument is that? I mean, that was literally the argument the last 3 weeks in saying, there was some other attacks, personal attacks on the person who was the incumbent.
But that jackass, first of all,
I know.
What a jackass platform to run on. We're successful and I can't stand it anymore.
Exactly. That was the platform.
Well, at least he had one. Most Republicans didn't even have any. All they did was talk.
Well, between that and his lies about the school district, and
his kids go to charter schools,
right? Exactly.
He doesn't want them in public schools.
Yeah, we didn't want them next to brown and black people. Let's just say exactly. He just doesn't wear his white sheet in commercials. I mean, let's just be as clear as we can be. That there's an insane amount of jealousy. That's what it really comes down to, is that they distort the truth about crime statistics. They distort the truth about scary street drugs and how the country's just melting down over fentanyl. I was like, we've we've been fighting like this drug war, which draws
my
directly
whole life. And it changed it just changes the name of the drug.
Because you can't ban drugs.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk about welfare queens, the majority of the people I know that were poor in rural Missouri where I lived also used a tremendous amount of drugs.
Yep.
And or they drank. And they saw, because they were poor, and it's painful to be poor. It sucks to be poor. It's proven fact that it lowers your IQ and decision-making ability while you're in poverty. And of course you're gonna do things that are gonna self-medicate, whether it's food, sex, rock and roll, drugs, or beer.
You're gonna self-medicate,
because you just like when you need to self-medicate for physical pain, whether it's Tylenol or codeine or whatever they're using at the time. The same thing is with mental pain.
Baileys and coffee.
Pain is painful. It sucks. It sucks not to be able to do the things, if you're a family person, to be able to do the things for your kids that other kids with wealthier parents get. It's painful to have your car constantly broke down. It's painful to be poor. I'm in and out of poverty all the time. And so I know what it feels like. When I'm poor, I'm more depressed. And it's a terrible feeling. It's a terrible feeling to not be able to buy a home, like in my case. And yet I want to stay in a competitive city because I feel like living here was much better than living in, smaller city Texas. And I feel like my career is starting to take off here because steel sharpens steel. I want to be in a competitive place. I want to be able to fight in a free market. And that's all the things they claim they want. But when it comes to the actual fight, they shrink from the fight almost every time because they're all talk and no action. And, if you want rural America to be helped, you should embrace Biden's policies, because his policies and Governor Cooper's policies for North Carolina absolutely are better for rural areas, like Medicaid expansion helps rural areas better than it does big cities, because rural hospitals go out of business all the time because the people in rural areas do not have insurance as easily. They don't have as big of employers. That's why they're rural areas. And so many are self-employed in those areas or underemployed. And whereas in a big city, you have big banks and big companies and all that. They give benefit packages. That's part of the welcome to get you to work for them. And so, universal Medicaid, high-speed internet, better roads, better bridges. One of the winning factors for Jeff Jackson as part of his campaign was saying in Gaston County, we need more than one bridge connecting us to the outside world. That bridge could go away at some point or be undrivable. That was one of his main planks of his campaign for the local people in a very poor county like Gaston County. It was a winning issue. He got a lot of.
So let's clarify for those who are watching us around the country, because whenever we do shows like this, the number one, it's California, Florida, Texas, and then North Carolina. Jeff Jackson won a congressional race here for this region. It was a brand new district, the 14th district, not the same as the campaign movie with Zach, what's his name?
Galifianakis
and
literally,
literally
14th district.
14th. We actually have it now here in North Carolina. Exactly. So Jeff Jackson won that district. He's a congressional member, Democrat. He won, and it covered Charlotte to Gaston County. So that's kind of what Jenny was talking about.
So it was mostly the western suburbs of the city of Charlotte, and then similar to his Senate district, his state senator district. And then it jumps all the way into, obviously, the entire Gaston County. And those people are worrying about infrastructure issues, as all rural Americans are, whether they're Democrat or Republican. And literally, one of Biden's major landmark things, it was the infrastructure bill.
Right.
Exactly. And then also, the going back into the manufacturing of chips, silicon chips that run everything from our cell phones to military weapons is both a national security and a business growth thing to begin manufacturing the silicon chips. We only manufacture 25% of the chips we use. These are huge things. So these plants can be built in rural Ohio. These places can be built in areas that have lost jobs to the auto industry and other
in North Carolina.
In North Carolina too. And technology has boosted this state a lot.
Hey, Jen, let's take a last break. We're only about 13 minutes left. If you like what you're hearing from Jenny, she has her own show that she leads. It's called Two Queers in a Truck. And interestingly, the same people who are watching our MAGA drag show refuse to post anything on your page, Jenny. I don't know what it is, but they
that's it's discrimination.
Kind of interesting. But even more interesting, if the FBI ever wanted to know where all the Proud Boys are, just look at our MAGA drag page and you'll see a lot of them who are giving their identities away. So just get their IP addresses. That's all I have to say. All right. So here's a commercial for Two Queers in a Truck. We will be right back after this commercial.
Up next is Two Queers in a Truck with Jenny and Christian. And hope you guys tune in. We'll see you in about 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you.
Well, welcome back. And I'm not suggesting the FBI should ask us for the IP addresses. But if you did, you can find probably all the Proud Boys.
They already have those.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
A lot.
That's right.
They had them because they were all in Washington, D.C. on January 6th.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, these outfits just went on their Instagram and whatever they had at the time and was going with their little monogram, Stop the Steal t-shirts. We're going to go stop the steal. And broadcasting, I'm like, you literally, it's like the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show when Wile E. Coyote
They don't know how to keep quiet.
Well, now because
they're very easily triggered. They're very easily triggered. Some of them have tried to be quiet because they don't want to get a lot of attention. All it took is a little show like ours to pull some of them out, and
they went crazy over the drag show, and
they still are.
But doesn't it say a lot about MAGA Republicans and Republicans in general? Whether it was Reagan. I remember Jesse Jackson just said, Reagan's nothing but styles and profiles. There's nothing to him. And the modern Republicans, 40 years later, is exactly the same thing. These guys are plastic banana Fruit Loops that have no substance to them. All you got to do is listen to Herschel Walker talk.
Oh, yeah.
Is that crazy. What it is? Oh my God, he was on the news and I was out of the room and I'm like, what is that? And I walked in the living room and it was Herschel Walker talking and I'm like, oh my God.
This is Mr. Fake valedictorian of a college that he did not graduate.
Police badge.
I think he played too many years of foosball. And clearly isn't the sharpest tool in the shed, going up against a very educated, very articulate, very
understatement.
He's going to now that the Democrats have held on to the Senate. This is still an important race because now they'll give them 51, which means we don't have to worry about as much for Manchin or Sinema or whatever her name is. It's still important. I think Warnock's going to. Now that the Republicans don't really, the ones who held their nose and voted for him, they're like, I don't need to hold my nose because we already lost the Senate. I'm just not going to vote. So I'm still going. I'm still going to Georgia to help that election because I want to see him get killed.
There too?
I'm sorry?
Is Stacey helping too?
I think everyone is trying to help. I think Stacey hasn't been, since she lost her election. I'm sure she will. But it seems like the same people that from the last runoff are galvanizing the Latino groups, the union groups. Everyone is still acting like this is a must-win seat.
It is.
Every seat is a must-win. Well, but here's really good news. We only have about 9 minutes left. Just real quickly, Jen. The MAGA message was put out there, what MAGA stands for. Biden's message was put out there, what he stands for. DeSantis' message was put out there. All of the messages were put out there. The data is showing that this talk that Latino voters or Hispanic voters were going to swing more conservative didn't happen.
Except
They actually
Florida. In Florida.
Well, but that's a different type of.
I understand.
Yes.
I understand,
Yes. The same people that voted for him the first time, they didn't pick up like any additional. Like the Cuban Americans that live in Florida, they are always going to vote for DeSantis. It's hard to kind of win them over. But like the ones in Texas, Florida, Nevada, North Carolina, all of the other big, non-Florida Hispanics, so to speak, did not go more conservative. So basically the message was, and this is kind of how I'm looking at it, they looked at that Latina in Musk's South Texas district, and they said, mija, you're too crazy for me.
and you also got to look at the age. So, the older, what I call the Castro Cubans that are that first generation that came over that Reagan made automatic citizens in the 80s. They still vote very heavy Republican, but we have to look at the younger Cuban American in Florida, and then you also have to look at the Latinx vote in general in Florida in the younger generation. And it voted very much more Democrat.
Yeah, and they didn't percentage-wise break off. And they were expecting the Latinos are becoming more conservative because they're tired. It didn't happen. And I knew it wasn't the case. And actually Beto overperformed in certain counties. He didn't win them, but he overperformed with the Latino Tejano vote, which was a very positive sign, because I was a little nervous, but I was just going off of what my parents were telling me. And they didn't go more conservative. So I do think that there's a population of Latin voters that are saying, this is a little too crazy for me.
And I think also too, both for Florida and Texas and even Georgia to a certain extent, when you're talking about the governor's race, the governorship or the CEO of those states has been so identified with the Republican Party. You're fighting a lot of tradition. Like, the state of Texas has been in Republican rule for 27 years.
Yeah,
and they've convinced and gaslit enough people. And they've also done a really good job of suppressing the vote in those three states. They've done somehow, I don't know how they're not in federal court every week on voter suppression, but they've literally made it one of their top policies to suppress votes to the point to where Texas numbers on who did not vote at all is overwhelmingly higher than the total of Abbott. And we're going to talk about this in two queers. We just don't have enough time to do a deep dive in this. But the amount of people that sat out the vote, that are registered voters in Texas that did not vote, is more than Abbott and Beto's votes combined.
Why is
Jenny,
that?
And that is when you do systematic voter suppression for as long as the Republican Party has done in Texas, for example, that's why you see historically low numbers and turnouts in major elections. Like, that's Texas's big election is the governorship and all that.
So hey, Jen, I want to say something real quickly. We only got about 4.5 minutes left. One of the things I saw in the Washington Post, they were doing an analysis of states and cities that are growing really fast, like Charlotte, for example, Nashville, Texas and Florida, the top two states. People are moving there faster than any other states. The difference they said was the people that are moving to Texas and Florida are more blue-collar workers. The people that are moving to bigger cities are more, like us, are more white-collar workers. What they said was, when people who live in cities who are blue collar, when more blue collar people move to that city, blue collar people don't like people moving to their city because it takes their jobs away because it's less competitive for them. White collar people, it's less competitive because just the nature of white collar jobs. So what they're saying is this push for DeSantis to jokingly say, move to Florida. Well, New York and everyone, they're saying, move to Florida. because what they're doing is they're making salaries higher in New York. In Florida, they're getting a lot of blue collar workers or people who can only get jobs in the service industry, which is really pushing the people who live there out of their jobs. Oh. And what you're going to get is, like in Texas, for example, you're going to get these people who hate these people moving here because it's getting too crowded. I don't make a lot of money anyway. And eventually what happens is the blue collar people turn and get angry because their lifestyle it starts diminishing. White collar people, I think we talked about this last time Barb was on, white collar people, when we pay $1.25 instead of $1 for a McDonald's drink, it doesn't impact us as much. We're going to pay whatever we need to pay for our gas. That's just the way it is. Blue collar people, it's a little bit more concerning for them. And so this push for Texas and Florida to continue to have this growth, I think is really going to start making the blue collar people who maybe can afford it less, where there's more competition, out there. And so I think that's something to see over the next couple of years. What do you think, Jen?
And also a really huge point, and I remember this, my second wife's father was a union construction guy. He was a boom operator. And so he was a big union guy. And that's why there was a lot of states like Texas and Florida that wouldn't work in, because the job sites weren't. He could get a job there. He could get a job anywhere because he was like a top 10 in the world. Like, he operated the big cranes that built like stadiums and things of this nature. But he didn't like non-union work sites in non-union states because of safety levels.
Right.
And two, the guys around him are a little bit more lax because they're not making good money. They're making shitty pay. And then he comes in making $67 an hour plus overtime, and he automatically walks into a kind of a hostile work deal. He says, this is not that fun. So he typically did not go to southern non-unionized states. And long story short is, for the people that are in these fast-growing states that have a lot of construction jobs, they're decent paid for that area compared to service industry work and tourism work. But they are getting the lowest of the lows. A union pipe fitter from Chicago is not going to move to Texas.
Yes.
Right.
Not until they retire.
Exactly.
And so it doesn't make sense. And the same way with California, it's a union state. Nevada, a union state. And these people are making professional wages. So we have to, when you break down rural states and states that have more anti-union, anti-organized labor laws and attitudes, you also get a lower grade worker. You get less training, you get less experience, you got less safety rules. And so the quality of the people that are moving to a Texas or a Florida, skill level wise, is not going to be very high. It's one of the reasons that Florida don't say gay stuff and all the crazy stuff, is why they're short 50,000 teachers. At the start of the school year, they ran so many teachers off, and years of Republican rule. And Texas is in the same boat. They historically run short 80, 90, 100,000 teachers all the time. I've got tons of friends back in Texas who are teachers. And they said, there's many times I've got to actually run 2 classrooms because we don't have enough teachers.
Wow.
Dead honest truth. And when you don't have teachers to hire, Texas, for example, has over 400,000 licensed teachers that are not in the teaching system anymore because of Republican policies in the last 27 years that are so anti-teacher and so anti-educator. North Carolina's in the same boat, with a hostile state assembly that is anti-education and public education that they're defunding the schools. And when you systematically defund the schools like Texas does, North Carolina, Florida, where Texas is 43rd, now one of the highest GMPs in the United States, but pays their teachers at a 43rd percentile. Like they're 43rd out of 50 states.
Yeah, I think you agree.
Scary.
I think you're going to start to see over the next couple of years the people who have lived in Texas and Florida for at least 10 years or more, they're going to hate all these new people coming in, unless they're retired. If they're retired, they're kind of on a fixed income. Yeah. But the people who are actually working there,
as long as the Republicans leave their Social Security and pensions alone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, that could change too as well.
One more really important point. So,
sure, real quickly, because we got to.
One of the reasons that there is so many problems in Texas and Florida too is that it is very attractive to retarees because there's no state tax. And so they sold that deal. So you have a lot of wealthy, high wealth people, athletes, famous people. It's one of the reasons Elon Musk moved there. Was there's no state income tax. And so that favors wealthy people. So the Republican policies are anti their base. And so you have a lot of poor working people in Texas and Florida. And as we all know, those are typically the Republican voter.
Sure.
And so the policies, those state policies and taxation codes have actually made it impossible for the poorest 25% to even working people to even get ahead in those states. And they see elite people retiring there and they go, well, this is just sadder. Just like, I'm here on food stamps. I'm struggling to make ends meet. I'm not moving up in the world. I'm not even able to afford a house because these rich elites are coming in and retiring there and buying these beautiful houses. And they're getting locked more out of the American dream.
Well, they hated me when I moved into that tiny little town in Texas because there weren't any houses. So I bought a prefab home and bought a lot and put it up. And this lady came down the street and she goes, well, now you have the nicest house on the street. And I said, well, what did you expect?
Okay. All right.
So I have one question, Christian. I have one question.
Go ahead.
Art has a very good friend that all his family is in like South Miami. And they're from Cuba. And he talks to Art a lot about, because Art's a Democrat, and he tries to understand, politics and whatever, but his parents are always going to vote for Republicans because they totally believe that the Democrats are socialists.
Yep.
And there's no changing that, is there?
I don't think so. Like my mom said she wasn't going to vote for, but she probably just said that to shut me up.
Yeah.
I know my dad, my stepmom didn't because I know them. They really don't like Abbott. But I, which is why it's so inspiring. And Jenny, that thing that she posted with the lady from TikTok was so correct. The reality is boomers are going to vote the way they are.
Yeah.
All we have to do demographically, we just have to override them. And the Gen Xers, the older Gen Xers are going to vote kind of similar to the boomers.
There's honestly, you could do an entire show on this dynamic of generations because the era that especially the older baby boomers like my parents, they were literally born in 43 and 46. They literally grew up in a way different world.
Oh yeah.
Than what even younger boomers and older Gen Xers like Christian and I grew up in. Like we grew up in a post World War II was a way different world than kids that grew up in the 70s and 80s like Christian and I did that graduated high school in the 80s. And we did see the world trying to piece its back together. And I think that has a lot of their thinking in their DNA. That their parents' generation not only fought in World War II, but also were Depression people as well. They grew up in the Great Depression, literally, and so way different America than what we did, and of course the millennials and the Zennials,
and especially
these, they saw,
and especially
even the poorest
especially the Gen Xers who have never left where they grew up from.
Yes.
These Gen Xers who've only moved 30 miles from where they were born, and probably maybe once in a while go out of state to on vacation somewhere. And if all you know is that, you're
clueless.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
If you grew up in Union County only and have lived your entire life, no matter how old you are, even if you're 30 years old, and all you know is Union County, and a big trip is going to Uptown Starlight or going to the NASCAR track or whatever.
Oh, maybe going to Disney World every once in a while. Yeah,
probably not.
Well, not everyone can do that.
You got a different human being than somebody like me that moved every 2 years because of my dad's work, and lived in cities like Albuquerque and Houston and Dallas and San Antonio, and saw mostly big cities in our life, and actually vacation too. My dad was a big fan of vacations, and we had the money to do it. Like, I didn't grow up in poverty. And so being a traveler and getting exposed to so many different school districts and kids and stuff like that had a way different impact on me than if I just would have been born in Vernon, Texas, and never got out of, maybe moved to Wichita Falls, the big city of 100,000.
Well, had a little technical difficulty there, but thank goodness to editing. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. This has been a really good show. I'm sure that even without watching the show, we're going to get a lot of people who post stuff, all kinds of stuff they post. So with that said, let's go around the Brady Bunch screen and tell us who you're going to be in 30 seconds or less. We'll start with you, Jen, and then Barbara. Jenny?
Well, I'm getting ready mentally for Thanksgiving, which is one of my least favorite holidays. And probably give me some, I just can't stand Thanksgiving. Just for a lot of reasons. And also this time of year, for transgender Americans and transgender population all over the world, we have TDOR, which is Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is a memorial to all the transgender people around the world that have been murdered in hate crimes, and remind people that in 40 of our 50 states, it's still illegal to kill me if you have a gay or transgender panic attack and want to murder me. It's the actual legal defense. Only 10 states have outlawed that in the United States in 2022. So with that awesome note, I'll hand it over to Barbara.
Well, God, my life is really boring compared to that. Woo! I'm just trying to help a family get moved, and then I will hopefully take a break and enjoy Thanksgiving, although Art's allergic to turkey, so I can't have my traditional Thanksgiving. I think we're having lasagna. Whatever. That's what I'm doing.
Okie dokie. Speaking of that, I just want to leave with two quotes. We kind of talked during the technical difficulty, and I knew I heard this because I watch PBS a lot, as you know. And Mark Twain said, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts." So basically, what he's saying is that people who don't travel, don't get out of there, are usually narrow-minded, bigoted, and prejudiced people. Right. And then he also said, he had a lot of quotes about travel. He said, "The gentle reader will never know what a consummate ass they are until they travel abroad." So, with that said, I will be traveling to the mountains this weekend, and then of course back for Thanksgiving. And next week's show, we will actually be talking about evangelicals. War on the Holidays. It's our last show in November, and we're very excited. And now I think we've agreed we're going to do a How to Make Tamales show in December. So we've got a lot of great shows coming in December. All right. We'll see you next week on. Jen, you have music?
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
We can fake
Bye, y'all. Yes. Bye. Yeah. That's right. Bye.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for watching. Be safe out there. Holiday travel's coming up. And watch the roads and watch the weather, and we'll see you on the flip side. Well, have a great week.
Bye. See you next week.
Next up, thanks for watching Coffee and Pan Dulce. Next up is Two Queers in a Truck. Stay tuned.